Hey everybody, Todd Wheatley here from Canada Realty and Millennium Holding Group. In this video, I'm going to cover what cost segregation is as far as real estate and some of the tax benefits that it can provide to real estate owners and real estate investors. This will be a general overview. It won't be entirely comprehensive, but it's a good starting point. And if you have any questions, reach out and we can discuss your particular questions or projects in detail. So first of all, what is cost segregation? So I've pulled up the definition here on the screen, and typically residential multifamily real estate is depreciated over a 27 and a half year time period, meaning that the building and all of the components of a building are expected to last 27 and a half years, and the IRS allows you to depreciate those assets in a straight line fashion, meaning equal amounts each year over 27 and a half years. And so if you had a property worth $1 million, excluding the land, you would divide that by 27 and a half years, and that would be the amount that you could depreciate on your tax return each year, which helps offset any income earned from the property. So what a cost segregation study is it's really an engineering based study, and it's used for both new construction projects and existing projects. And it breaks down the building and all the components of the building into individual items, down to things like the outlet or the sewer line or windows or doors. Every single component of the building is categorized. And what that does is that allows for certain components to be put into shorter depreciation timelines. The IRS code allows for certain items with a much shorter life expectancy to be depreciated over 5 years, 7 years, or 15 years. And so by breaking down having a compliant engineering firm break down the components of the building, you can move much of your depreciation from 27 and a half years to those shorter periods of time, which can have massive tax benefits. So that's what it is. Next, I'm going to actually pull up a real cost segregation report that we completed last year for one of our larger buildings. One thing to note is cost segregation studies, while they're not always talked about in the real estate investing circles, they aren't just for big buildings. They're often used for big buildings because the benefits are quite massive, but they can be used on buildings as small as $1 million or potentially even a little bit less than $1 million. You'd want to talk to the actual cost segregation firm to see if it makes financial sense. But because the cost of a study is really depending on how many buildings and size, can be as low as even $5,000, the tax benefits can be well worth that cost. So you want to talk to your CPA, you want to talk to your cost segregation team prior to doing it, just to make sure it makes sense. But you can use these for smaller assets as well. So now I'll pull up an actual report that we used, and in this table you'll see what the time periods that I was referencing. So in line 1, you'll see the 27 and a half year bucket, then you'll see the 15-year bucket, and then you'll see the 5-year bucket. And you can see in the original reported totals, 100% of the property value, the building value, was reported in the 27 and a half year line, which means you could have taken this $18.2 million, divided by 27 and a half, and that's your depreciation each year. Well, we may or may not own the property for 30 years or 27 and a half years, and so we'd like to benefit from that depreciation much sooner if possible, to help offset some of our rental income and any appreciation at the time of a sale. So what we did is we completed this cost segregation study, and you can see in the second column the new buckets. And so of the 18.2 original here, 14.2 million stayed in the 27 and a half year bucket, 988,000 moved to the 15-year bucket, and almost $3 million moved to the 5-year bucket. Both computing to the same amount. Obviously, these need to reconcile. The intention is not to add or remove components, but just to categorize them. So now that we have these three different buckets and nearly $4 million moved within the 15-year period, I want to kind of move down and show you how that impacts the actual depreciation schedule, particularly in year one, which I'll highlight right here. So before the cost segregation study, we would have been able to take $359,000 of depreciation. That's because we closed halfway through the year, and so this would have been a half a year's worth of straight line. That would have been the half a year of straight line depreciation, which you can see is the same each year if you follow it down. After this cost segregation study, you can see that, excuse me, we had $4.2 million of available depreciation, which is a net change of $3.9 million in year one and a potential tax savings of $1.5 million in year one. So what that means is that the owners of the property, and this includes the general partners and investors, would see $3.9 million on their tax return. They'd be able to use a portion of that to offset the rental income from the property, which we did in fact see. And so that paper loss, or the offset in rental income, can be used by the owners and investors on their personal returns to help offset ordinary income that they earn from W-2 or self-employment, or it can be carried over to later years during which we eventually will sell the building. We could potentially have a significant capital gain, and so investors and owners of the building may choose to just keep that keep that paper loss in their back pocket to help offset any gains that will be due at the sale of the building. It provides a lot of flexibility. Again, this is not financial advice. This is not tax advice. This is just one real estate investor talking to another. But this is one of the very powerful tools that real estate investors can use and have available to them. And it's up to them, their CPA, and their financial planning team to help them understand how best to use this loss within their personal tax situation. It's not often talked about, but it is one of the more powerful tools that real estate investors have available to them. So I wanted everybody to know about it. We will have Jeff Hyatt from the cost segregation team that actually performed this particular study. He will be at our Waltham meetup on March 24th. So if you're interested in learning more from the experts or asking any questions, please join us at the meetup. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to dig into any details and questions you might have. So with that, if you have questions, reach out or drop a comment below, and thanks for watching.